Alright, I'm going to be doing a video here going over how to use the Simple Lights GUI. This is one of my more recent tools that I made. Made it a couple of months ago, but just hadn't gotten around to actually making the video for it, so that's what we're going to do right now. And if you are unfamiliar with how to download and install my tools, I want to suggest that you go watch that video before continuing this video, just so that you're familiar with that process, because I won't be explaining that in this video. So once you watch that, you'll be ready to go and watch this. So getting right into the Simple Lights GUI, I'm gonna just go over what it is really quick, and then we'll run through the interface and then talk about some of the functionality of it. So basically, the Simple Lights GUI is just a way of simplifying the lighting process. And while that sounds kind of generic, usually when you write a script or tools, that's usually what you're doing, is you're simplifying something or automating something, making something faster. And usually what I've noticed a lot of is a lot of people's scripts and tools kind of, you click a button and it does something, or you select something, you click the button and it does something. And while this tool kind of does some of that, it's more of a, like I said, making something simpler, not necessarily doing something for you. So that being said, we'll go ahead and run through, you'll see what I mean eventually once we get into the functionality, but we'll go ahead and run through the components here that you see, and then we'll talk about some of that. So right away up at the top, you can see this kind of banner. I have this on all of my tools. It's basically just a quick links to my website as well as this video. So if you were to click on this button, it will take you straight to my website, so you can check out some of the other stuff that I've done or find whatever it is you need. And then likewise, the how to use button will take you straight to this video, which of course won't do anything right now because I don't have the video uploaded yet, obviously. So there's that. Moving right down, you can see there's a refresh button, which is really big and over here by itself, and there's a reason for that. And I'll talk about that here in a second, but basically it will be a way of refreshing the GUI, and that doesn't make a whole lot of sense right now, but you will see why this is here in a second. And then likewise, the sort method little option here also won't really make any sense right now, but you will see what it does here in a second once we actually start using the tool. So lights in the scene, that will basically just show you how many lights are in the scene. Pretty self-explanatory. And below that you can see a light creation area, a little bit more accessible button for your lights, as well as the fact that things like the mental ray area light and the spotlight, I've programmed it to make an area light closer to what a lighting artist might actually use. Whereas the area light up here, you have to turn on a bunch of stuff, and I've already got it set up at least close to what you would need. Obviously there will be some adjusting that need to be done, but it'll get you close. So there's that. There's the main four lights: the area light, spotlight, directional light, point light, and then your image-based lighting, your IBLs. And the reason, some of you've probably noticed, there's two more lights, the volume light and the ambient light. I didn't put those on here due to the fact that I never used them, and I just decided that I should keep them out and save some space. Kind of cleans it up, makes it a little more spacious here. So below that you can see there is a lights tab and a tools tab. Lights tab is empty, which is kind of, you're probably like, what's all this extra space for? Well, you will see in a couple of minutes that this is where all of your lights will be displayed. And then on the tools tab is a bunch of tools. Well, right now there's only one tool, but this will be, hopefully in later versions, we'll have a bunch of different tools and scripts for lighting that makes lighting a little bit easier. You can see there's one in there already, and we'll talk about that here in a little while. So let's go ahead and jump right into the functionality of this GUI. So basically there are four main functionality kind of cool features, I guess. We'll call them features. The first one I'll talk about, or the first two, I guess, they're kind of separate. I don't know why I put them on the same line, but is the light creation and the dynamic GUI components. So these two kind of go hand in hand. So light creation is pretty obvious. It's the process of us creating lights, basically clicking these buttons and making lights. So you can see in doing so, that kind of leads into my second point, the dynamic GUI components, which is the fact that this interface updates based on the lights that are in your scene, which is really nice. I've noticed a lot of tools on the internet that you can download are usually just a window with a bunch of buttons, and you can select something, click a button, and it does something. Which, don't get me wrong, it's still a very powerful thing to be able to have. But one of the things I wanted to challenge myself with this particular project was to be able to make a dynamic GUI. So you can see that happening right there. Whenever I create a new light, it automatically will update this GUI, or this section of the GUI, to display that new light in the interface. So this really makes a very nice ability when you are lighting to have a more specific interface rather than a big generic interface that kind of, you select a light and have a couple of features that works for all different light types. This gives you access to each individual light, which is I find to be a very, very unique thing. So this kind of leads into the things I told you we would talk about in a little bit, and that's the refresh button and this sort method. So the refresh button, pretty simple. Basically what happens, since this is a dynamic GUI, there is a delete button for each light, so I can go ahead and delete that, and you can see it automatically updates the GUI itself when you use that delete button. But on the other end of that, if I try to delete the light in the actual scene using the delete key, you'll notice that the interface doesn't update, which is kind of a little bit of a bug. I'm hoping to have an auto update eventually. I played around with it a little bit in the development of this particular tool, but it kept giving me some problems, so I figured I'd keep it simple for the first couple of versions. But basically the refresh button is there so that if something like that happens, if you're getting these things in the interface that aren't supposed to be there, you can see this is all grayed out because this light doesn't exist anymore. If I try to do anything with it, it just kind of doesn't do anything. So you can refresh it and it will, kind of manually refresh the interface. So that's what that's for. With that, there's also the sort method, which is one of my favorite little features because of the fact that it's not very necessary, but it lets you kind of just customize the way the interface is. And I can go over here and sort it based on the intensities, high to low, low to high, or based on their names, the actual name of the light, not the type. And I can do that there. You can see it changed it to A through Z. And then we can go backwards so that you see all the lights from Z to A. And then we can also do it by type, which separates them. If I had more of each light, it would group all of those lights together. So let me just rename some of these really quickly so you can see this. And that's another thing that's really cool about this, is that you can see each light has its own renaming. And this is kind of nice because when you're renaming it, if I wanted to name this key light, I don't have to put the underscores. I can leave a space and it will kind of do it for me. You can see right there it interpreted that I meant to put it in underscore. So alright, so we've got all these named just to kind of help us see the sort method a little bit better. So we'll start with the high to low, and all of them are probably 1, I think, except for the area lights. They're probably at 500, yeah. So you can see high to low, it's got spotlight 500, 500, 500, and then once you get into these other ones down here, it has an intensity of 1. So it's sorting them high to low, and likewise low to high, it would just reverse that basically. Name A to Z. This is really nice to have, just in case you forget what something's called, or if you know what it's called and you're trying to find it in the list of a bunch of lights, you can remember the name that you named it and find it from there. So you can see that, and then likewise, like I said, Z to A goes backwards up the list. And then type, this is the one I was on. You can see it separates each individual light type out into like a kind of a block of all of those. So that's the main functionality of the light creation and dynamic GUI components. So And so the second feature that I'll go over is basically just the fact that the components are connected to their own individual attributes. And that sounds a little bit unnecessary to say, and it is for the purpose of this video, so I won't really go into it. But basically, all you need to know is that each light's components on the GUI are connected directly to its own components. It's not, an arbitrary component that's, using some sort of change command to update the attribute. It's actually changing. It's almost like a proxy or a copy or an instance of that particular attribute. So that's kind of a cool thing. So the next thing I want to talk about, editing multiple lights at once. That's something we saw a couple of minutes ago when we were going over the GUI's outline. And basically what that is just a way to select a bunch of lights and edit an attribute and have them all be changed to that value. So rather than having to click on each and every single light, say you have 20 lights, and change it to a value of something like 24, you can select all of those lights, change it here, and it does them all at once. So that's a really nice thing to have. The last thing I really want to talk about with this GUI that's really a key part of it is the interactive error handling, and that isn't very intuitive what that might be, but it's basically something that I have intentionally built into the GUI so that anybody that's using it can be notified when something isn't maybe correct or needs to be attended to. And I'll show you an example of that here. So we've got a bunch of things that are not necessarily what we want. So if I go ahead and refresh, it'll get rid of all of these, and we'll see all this red, and which is really kind of nice to have, even though errors are not nice to have. The fact that it changes to red automatically indicates that there's something wrong. Red just tends to be a color that's associated with attention. So basically what these errors indicate are when you have one of 5 particular errors, it will notify you using this very vibrant red that you need to check it out. And these errors include the decay rate of the light, whether it's quadratic or not, the visibility in the scene, so if the light is actually off or not visible in the scene, it will let you know. If the light has any shadow color that is not black, it will let you know. If you're not using ray trace shadows, and if your area lights are not mental area lights, it will let you know as well. So if any of those problems come up in your lights when the GUI or when the interfaces run, it will notify you using these little error warnings or warning messages. And what's really, really nice is the fact that it has a little convenient little button here to go ahead and fix the problem. So it tells you, warning, shadow color is not black. We can see that's correct right there. We'll go ahead and fix it. Bingo, goes away. Shadow, ray trace shadows is not on. We'll go down and look at that. It is right, not on. We'll fix that. Let's see, warning, there is not a mental ray area light, so we'll fix that. That's something we want. And warning, the decay rate is not quadratic, and you'll notice that it's yellow and not red. This is kind of trying to tell you that it's not necessary for it to be quadratic, but it's something you may want to be aware of, so that you can either fix it or ignore it. If you ignore it, it goes away. It will come back each and every time you refresh it. I'm going to work on maybe a way of having it not do that, but for the time being it will come back just in case, and then you can go ahead from there and fix it if you want. So we'll go ahead and fix it, and that's really I think a very cool thing to have, just to kind of make sure that there are no problems with your lights. These are a lot of the main problems that people may accidentally run into, so that's a really awesome feature that to be able to have, is to be able to catch your user errors, and to be able to interactively fix them, and that hence the interactive error handling. So that is the main 4 features of the GUI. There are more to come eventually, but for the time being, that's pretty much all I have for this video. If you like it enough, you can go ahead and download it and check it out. But thanks for watching.